Okay, I think it's time to begin my stone stories. I mean, I have a lot, but I picked out ones that, felt valuable to me. And, um, and so the first time I was actually at age 57. Now, I've been doing this down through lifetimes, but in this lifetime, it started happening at age 57. And I work with a system called the Science of the Cards that I've been doing for 20 years. And it was age 56 was a strong marriage influenced year for me. So when you think of marriage, you think of marriage with a partner. Well, also so I met Don, and he loved going to the swap meet. And so that was where one of our dates went, was to the swap meet. And there was this wonderful table. And on the table, there was this stone. And I hadn't, at this time, I hadn't done anything with the stones up until 57. If I did it as a child, I don't remember. I'm sure that there was some connection there. But anyway, but at age 57, because 56 was a year where there was family things going on, and so I needed to be with my daughters for that. So at 57, Dawn came into my life, and so did the stone. So he took me to the swap meet, and he saw that there was this table, and it had this stone, and it was like, oh my, you know, it was, the draw for me was so important, and I picked it up, but I looked at the price. I was on a limited budget then, and he said, you know what, I think you ought to have that stone. So he started the work that I did in stones. He is really responsible for that happening. And this stone started going everywhere with me. It was in my purse. It was just the feeling that it brought out in me. I don't necessarily hear messages, but there's a part of me, I operate with more a knowing. And so I knew that this was very important. So I was working I was a team leader at EDS, and one of the program managers came over to me and said, oh, she had this terrible migraine headache. And I said, oh, well, I have this wonderful stone in my bag. How about we take it out and try it? I don't. So I take the stone out, put it on her forehead, and her headache goes away. And it was like, oh my God. I mean, I was blown away. So now, besides being a team leader at EDS, I started doing this stone work. And I would bring my stone in, and I would, there was no charge. I just did it. And everybody got to come to me when they needed it, and it was just the way it was. I didn't think about having a stone and crystal business at that time. I just loved this stone, right? And I'm so glad that I still have it. I would never, ever, ever not have this stone. This would not get donated. And so, anyway, so now, one day I retired from there, and but they called me in to fill in. They needed some help, so I went in, and I went into the manager and program manager's office and they said to me, "Oh, someone has a headache or something." And I said, I don't have my stone with me. I did not bring the stone with me. I said, well, maybe I'll just try my hand. I don't know where that came from at all, but I put my hand on her forehead, and her headache went away. And it was like, it was really shocking to me. So now I thought, I have to really take training in this. So I didn't feel the need to take the training with the stones, but I started to feel the need to take the training with this energy that I had. And so I began my trainings with some Eric Pearl with reconnective healing and reconnection, and Peggy Phoenix DeBro with EMF balancing technique. I became a teacher. Saw clients. And my stone, started taking a back seat. All right. Now I was using my hands, and so at some point in time, being an avid reader, I looked at the back of a book I was reading, and it said Earth, the Cosmos, and You. And I thought, oh, that sounds like an interesting book. And it was by Orpheus Philos, Revelations by Archangel Michael. And I happen to love Archangel Michael. So I thought, this is going to be a great book. So I opened the book, I started reading that book. And then Archangel Michael started talking about the 12 precious stones that were on the planet now. And so I was like, oh, I've got to find those stones. And now my work with the stones began, because I needed to find the stones that were in the 12 precious stones. And so it was a big search. We are very blessed in Tucson to live in a place that hosts the largest gem show in the world. So we have, for at least 2 weeks a year, sometimes 3, we've got energy of all these stones around us. And and stones are as alive as you and I. So the fact of the matter is when you think of all these stone beings that come to Tucson once a year, you're talking about a lot of energy. So we have adjusted as residents of Tucson to adjust to that energy. And so now my work began. I started to try to find the 12 precious stones. In the meantime, I was so impressed by that book, Earth, the Cosmos, and You, Revelations by Archangel Michael, that I called the author, Orpheus Philos. And I told her what that book meant to me, and that I was going to do the 12 precious stones and bring them. By that time, I thought it's time for me to bring them to others. And so, I started to move into the stone and crystal business. And the search was not easy, finding all the stones. Most of them were available, but not everyone was. I had to do more of a search. And so with having a friendship with Orpheus, who happened to be the channel for Archangel Michael, I was blessed enough for Archangel Michael to start to come to speak to me. So as his channel, she would go out and he would come in and he would start to talk to me. So I now had conversations with Archangel Michael. I mean, that's pretty profound for me. And he told me all kinds of things. Now, there were written things that I had. I had the information of the book. But there were a lot of things he told me I couldn't remember. I'd be sitting on the couch in the living room. So it was all stones. He was talking about my work with the stones and with the fairies. And the fairies, which are the elementals, work, at the base of trees, working on the grids and the ley lines. And Archangel Michael asked me if I would gather some stones and start to pass them, to create stone bags, for which then I did these little feed the fairy bags, just so that people could have them. We have some more people coming.
Dowsers?
Honey, you want to pass these out to the new people?
Can't you do it later?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What is the stone made of? Is it rhodochrosite or is it crystal?
The stone,
The stone, the stone that you had.
the stone that I had, this is a quartz crystal. This is quartz, all right? And sometimes that's what happens. You're just drawn to the energy of a stone. And so this quartz became, like I said, even...
Then I get one.
And there's one more person. Oh, two more people.
Thank you. Too colorful.
Thank you, honey. So even though I started to work in more of a modality sense as a healing practitioner and teacher, and I saw clients, it didn't disappear from my life, but it just took a back seat now to the work that I was doing. And so at some point in time, and I don't remember exactly when, is I went up to Sedona and I started, now I am interested in stones and crystals. I went from having this stone to now we have a playroom full of stones, and all through our house there's stones here and stones there, and so in fact I have to say that my daughter, my youngest daughter who turns 44 in a few days, said, I think when you and Dawn go, I'm going to have to open a stone and crystal store. I don't want to do that because I've had stores and I don't want to do that anymore in my life. You know, so we have it in our playroom and people can come there. But we have enough that she could literally open up a store. But she also needs to learn about them and train. For everything that I ever do, I always create a card so people aren't left. When they get a stone from us, they have the card that describes what that stone information has for them. So this went on the back seat. Now I'm into the healing arts, doing other work, and there was some occurrence that happened, and I don't remember exactly what it was. I've given it a lot of thought. I went back to the stones. I mean, and not just this. Now it was like something I felt the need that I needed to move into the energy of the stones and crystals and minerals. I was so drawn to it. And then, of course, with the connection with Orpheus Philos and Archangel Michael, he began to tell me that I was called the gem keeper. And so I did this work in lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, connected with the stones and crystals. It just seemed like in this lifetime it was more important. Some psychic told me you needed to put your attention on raising your family, being present for them, instead of doing major work with something else that I loved, which is what I did. And then once my kids were raised, I could, you know, go into it fully. And so, anyway, so again, this is playing an important role again. I have it out, I work with it, but you can see that all the other things started occurring. So one of the things that Archangel Michael asked me to do is that the fairies, the elementals, are working, you know, with the trees and the bushes, the roots of the system. They're working with the grids and the ley lines to help change our earth. And he asked me if I would gather some stones and make, you know, together so people, and sell them, so people could have them and plant them. And it doesn't matter. I didn't name the stones that are in this bag. I took a big plastic container and I just dumped in stones from every area that we had went in, and I mixed them up, and then I got a scoop, and I scooped it in and put it in a bag. All right? I picked the pink bag because I think of fairies in pink. So that doesn't mean anything, but that's just, my perception. So so then it came time for a price. So I got out my dowsing chart, and I wanted to know how much to charge for the bag. Now, I didn't price the stones. I took some of everything that we had along one. Most of them were the polished stones. And so I started to fill my fairy bags. And the dowsing chart told me $11. I said, that's fine. So $11 it became for the bag, a scoop of these stones.
11 is a master number, going from the physical to the spiritual.
Right? Not a surprise, right? And so I started filling those. I counted how many bags that I had created, and they were 73. And so Jennifer came over, my youngest daughter, and said, what are you doing? I want a bag too. So I went in and made her another bag, which made it 74 bags that I created, and 7 and 4 are 11. So you can see how it was just like so amazing to me how that happened. So I started carrying a bag like this with me. I got a little scoop, and I started placing them wherever I went. Rocco's is one of my favorite restaurants. I said to the owner, Rocco, do you mind if I put some stones on your property? He had a tree, and we went over, and I dug a little place, and I put a few stones down into the tree. So, and he said, go for it. I thought that was very sweet, that I'm asking him, could I put stones on his property? So he was really receptive to that, and it was very sweet. I usually like to ask people if it's okay if I do that, all right? And then in my travels, Archangel Michael asked as I traveled on my highway of life, if I would stop and I would plant some stones here and there, and that would feed the fairies who would then work on the grids and the ley lines. It would bring them light and energy, and it would help them. And so then he began to talk about my life with the fairies. And, in another domain, I worked with them. So that's why I had this deep connection to them. So anyway, so these are fairy bags, all right, and they're $11. Then I found that I really started liking creating bags, medicine bags. So I did the 12 precious stones, and then I did, in this burgundy bag, I did a calcite medicine bag, and they're all the calcites. And so everything that we do, I create a card, so you're left with some knowledge of what the stone is in the bag. And so those burgundy are the calcite medicine bag. And then I went to, we have a wholesaler that we go to buy our stones from. When the Gem and Mineral Show isn't here, we go over there. So I went in one day, and I happen to love quartz, obviously, and I went over to the aisle where the quartz were, and there were hundreds of celestials. This is an celestial quartz. And I just fell in love with this stone out of the 100 of stones. And again, it called to me. There wasn't even, I just knew that I wanted that stone. So I got that stone, and as we were getting ready to check out, they had hired a psychic to help with the sale of the stones. It was during a very busy time. And she said, this stone she felt was one of the most important of the celestials that were back there. She said, I tried to sell it to 5 people. They didn't want it. Well, obviously, it was waiting for me. And, and so it became a stone that sits behind my headboard on my bed. It's an earth element stone, unlike most quartz are storm element. And so you're attracted to quartz a lot of times when you're getting ready to do major transformation in your life, is when you're attracted to a storm element stone, which most quartz are. But this celestial is an earth element. So it's a more calming kind of stone, so it sits behind my headboard. It's always with me. I mean, I don't take it in my pocket and travel with it. One time our host for Lee Carroll, who's the channel for Cryon, and we were at an event in Sedona when he was doing the Summer Light conferences in Sedona, and somebody wanted my stone. And she said, I was told by the angels that I was to have that stone. And I said, this is my special stone. I'm not. She was really incensed that I wasn't willing to give up the stone, but there was no way that I was going to do that. And so those kinds of things happen. And then, so now I started looking at other stones. I mean, and so the celestial, all I knew about the celestial then, I came home, got my book of stones out, read about the celestial, and I was blown away at what that meant. And it said it crystallizes filters, that we have in our pre-physical level of consciousness. And I'm not going to talk about that work there. But all I know is that this stone, I had no idea the importance. So about 6 or 7 months later, I finally started taking my first stone training. And I did it with Naisha Asian, the co-author of the Book of Stones. And it was becoming a human crystal. And I don't know whether it was a 6-month course. All I can tell you is that I loved every minute of it. And then she started to talk about the celestial. And the celestial and the rutilated quartz work together in the pre-physical level, which is at soul level. We're working now at soul, and not just in our, energy field. And then I found out why I had been so drawn to this stone. And in the meantime, we went back and we are always buying celestials. Because I love it so much, I talk about it a lot. So as vendors, every time we do a Cryon event or, whatever, we're vendors there, I always talk about the celestials. So now we're running out. What you see here is what we have left. Dawn goes over to the warehouse where we buy our celestials, and they said they're not mining the celestials in Mexico anymore, in that area. They've pulled all the miners that would go into that mine, and they're having them build a prison right in that area. So they have no more celestials. Now, they're on the internet, for sale, the celestials, and I have all little pieces of it, and this is what I have left, is the celestials and the rutilated I have together. They work together, all right? And so there was a reason why this stone became so important, and now it's not so available. And so in my mind and in my heart, there's always a reason. I can't even imagine what's going to happen to those people that enter that prison, sitting in a area where these stones are mined. It couldn't help but benefit them. So now we don't have we don't have them available. So if the celestials are something that you really find that you're drawn to, then you can go on the internet, and there are a few places where you can find them. But we carried them, you know, I'm sure that we did more work with them, around them, than a lot of people, because of how important they were when I finally started to take my Becoming a Human crystal training. And so that was the story about the celestials. Now, I also I was talking to Orpheus one day on the phone. I can't remember if, I'm assuming I said on the phone, so I'm sure that that's what it was. And all of a sudden she said, your trees, right outside my office window is a big mesquite tree. So I took a quartz cluster, put it at the base of that tree, and now she got interrupted by the rest of the trees and the bushes on our property, and they all wanted stones just like that mesquite tree had. So they felt that that's what they wanted from me. I thought it was absolutely adorable that they were asking that, and I thought, of course. So I went out then and started placing stones everywhere on our property that bushes and trees is what I did. So that I knew that in some way I was doing my part with helping the planet, with the grids and the ley lines. So that's the story of the celestials. And then one day we were vendors again in Sedona, and I had made a meditation mat, a big meditation mat. The directions are in your folder for creating that. And I did a meditation mat, and I did it 5 feet. So it was 60 inches wide, and I lined it, the edging with the purple bias tape, and I sewed, and then I drew the sections, the 12 sections, onto the mat. I traced them, and then I sewed little purple bags at each of the spokes of those 12 places. So I would be able to have that mat out, and people could sit in the center. I'm sorry, I don't know where the mat is. I don't know. Maybe the fairies took it. Who knows? I don't know. I don't have my mat. And I have to create another one. So maybe I'll do a class on creating a meditation mat, because I found that it was really, really pretty powerful. So at the Cryon event then, I started filling the pockets with the 12 precious stones. We brought a chair, people could sit there. And then I decided to fill the pockets with the 12 synergy stones. Now, the 12 synergy stones, these are all separate stories, all right? This little bag, which is hardly anything, well, it's got 12 stones, little itsy bitsy stones, and it's $162. We're not talking about cheap stones. They're the highest vibrational energy stones that, some of the highest that we have on our planet. So I put the synergy stones in each of the pockets, and Lee was going around during break time and said he's going to come over and sit in that chair. So he sits down in the center of the chair. He is there 2 minutes, and he said, I'm out of here. I got a channel in 5 minutes. The energy of the synergy stones was so powerful, and I'm telling you, they're little. They're little because they're not very, and we just double our prices on our stones, so it isn't like we're making a big profit. But like this bag is $135. It didn't matter. But when they went in those bags and went around that mat, that circumference, and you sat in the center, you had the energy of all these stones coming in and connecting with you. And that was pretty powerful, all right? And so his reaction was wonderful because it really, it affirmed how important these stones were, because he's a channel for Cryon, and and also very connected. So I just, it was reaffirming. I don't carry a lot of the Synergy Stone bags. They're very expensive, but we have a whole bag of the separate Synergy stones. So for people who have some of the stones already, they can add from what we have to make their own bag if that's something that they would like to do. All right. I also created, as you can see, I love making medicine bags. So I started making the 12 Essential Healing Crystal Medicine Bag from another author that I loved his book. My two favorite books, and I'm going to talk about them, is The Book of Stones with Robert Simmons and Naisha Asian. It's like a fabulous book. And it has, you know, and that's the latest. That's the newest edition, so they've added more stones to it. And and then Michael Ginger, yeah, he lives in Europe, and I just love this book. So I created what's called Crystal Pharmacy. So I have healing crystal bags from A to Z for different illnesses and that. And I created crystal, the Crystal Pharmacy. I didn't bring them with me. For some reason, they haven't been a huge seller, and I should not even repeat that because that doesn't mean things don't change. I think there's becoming more and more interest in the stones, the crystals, and the minerals. They're a wonderful support for us. And the fact is that we're becoming human crystals. Our energy is becoming more crystalline, and we're becoming now human crystals on our own. So there you go. I mean, so we're starting to pick up all the gifts of these stones and crystals themselves. They're starting to affect us. And that brings me, how are we doing on time? Because I don't want to, because I really want to open the floor up to questions and people's stone stories themselves. Are we good? Okay. So now, one of the most important, I took the training, the Lemurian Choir. I was part of the Lemurian Choir. We trained with Dr. Todd Ovakaitis of Demetria, and we went to Maui, and there was almost 1,000 of us. And we met in Maui, and we pineal toned. And we did that on the 19th, 20th, and 21st of December 2012. It was amazing to meet these beautiful people from all over the world and speak to them and hear their stories and all of that. And so I came home from that, and I certainly was affected. There is no way that you're going to pineal tone with almost 1,000 people. I mean, when we went outside and we were pineal toning, we literally could see the change in the sky. The stars and everything else like that started to move. It was like profound. So I came home from that, and obviously it had changed me. So now that was in December. And in January, and I don't know the exact date, thank God to dowsing, I went and asked the date. And I can't even, it was sometime in January. I was riding down, I went Colb Road and made a right on Pintano. And there was a rainbow. And the rainbow ended at 22nd Street and Pintano. You know, this beautiful rainbow. I was like, it was just so beautiful. So I started heading down Pintano, no, 22nd Street to go to Pintano. And there were just apartment buildings on the right. And I thought, I've got to take a picture of that rainbow. So because I couldn't park on the right-hand side heading towards Pintano, I had to make a U-turn and park in front of a used um, um, auto place. They were selling used cars. And I got out of my car and I looked, and all around me was golden mist. I'm watching cars and they're driving into this golden mist and they're not having major accidents. I am like, I can't believe I am watching it. I am mesmerized. I'm feeling like it was mystical, all kinds of feelings. In fact, I never got to the end of the rainbow because I had to go home and do some research and find out what that meant. And so I turned my car around, touched by I don't think I've ever had that kind of experience in my life. It was that profound. So I came home, got on the internet, and started researching what that meant. I put in all kinds of little keywords and that nothing was coming up. And so it didn't change my memory of what happened to me. It was beyond profound. So anyway, about a month later, I had gotten my crystal book out. One of the synergy stones is the herderite. And so I, just went to the herderite section. And I'm going to read this to you because I think it's really important for me to do that. And I was just looking at herderite, and I noticed down below they started talking about golden herderite. And it said, I'm going to read this to you because it's that important. It said, these are the herderites of the golden ray vibration, and they are here to assist those ready to ascend in meditation to the domain known as the golden void. I went, oh, whoa. Now I'm like, this sounds very familiar. It said, in this area of consciousness, the atmosphere is like warm gold dust. I am like, oh. There is a deep sense of divine presence in this realm. And it is the domain in which our vibrational frequencies are stepped up to the next octave of our evolution. In the years ahead, there will be a quantum leap of evolution, and humans will become less dense. They may evolve to a trans-physical state in which they identify themselves as a field of consciousness rather than a personality inside the skin. This is the experience to which the golden herderite can introduce one. Now, because I had taken becoming a human crystal training, I had already started to become more crystalline myself. Obviously, it had to impact me. And so I went around and I find golden herderites. Well, let me tell you, this little itsy bitsy golden herderite is $19. This little one is $28. We're talking teeny tiny, but it is one of the most incredible stones that there are out there. Can I guarantee that this will take you to the golden void? We're going to go there anyway. But we're already becoming human crystals. I told you this story because things like that are going to start happening to us. And we're not going to have answers. And I bless this book and my guides and everyone that made me go and read that portion because it described exactly what I saw. And then I realized that this was like very powerful. So I have 2 golden herderites here for sale, and I'm keeping one for myself, and I'm going to make me a little pendant of it. But I'm going to, I'm going to buy a sterling silver cap and somehow, and wear this. I didn't need this, okay? I didn't have this present with me when I had that experience, but it doesn't matter. That's where I read about the experience. So that was the most important story that I felt you needed to know about, because that's exactly what's happening to us, where our bodies are changing and we're going to have all kinds of those events happening, different than mine, but at least if you go into at one day, everything's golden, a golden mist, and it's clear. It's not like iffy. It was clearly, I was in this golden mist, and I kept thinking, why aren't these cars plowing up, but obviously I was there, they were not. All right, so that was the difference, okay? But very soon, they're going to be there themselves. So that's things that I wanted to talk about. I gave you that story in your book, a page in your little manual that I gave you, and so that you could refresh that. Your story could be totally different, but because of where I went to the Golden Void, obviously people are going to start to experience that at some point in time. And I really feel like the training that I did in Maui with the pineal toning, for those days, really, it was just part of what happened again in the very next month. So we are going to see those things. And I'm going to stop on my stories. Let me make sure that I've told you everything. Oh, I recently, because I love stones so much, we had my beloved Harmony, our Labradoodle. And I had a very serious surgery last October, and I could have died. And at that point in time, Harmony could have gone home too. And she decided, I stayed, and so she decided to stay also. So Harmony died on April 25th of this year. She's been gone 6 months. And I immediately reached for my zoisite with ruby, and it's a grief stone. And I happen to have a zoisite with ruby pendant, and I also have zoisite with ruby stones. And so they're for sale there also. And I just love that stone. So the ruby part of it is, the ruby gives us energy to move forward. All right, and with the green healing energy of zoisite and the combination, it's a wonderful, wonderful grief stone. So and not just for losing your dog. I mean, we have a lot of things that we grieve in our lives. So I really recommend zoisite with ruby. Like I said, we have a room full of all kinds of stones, azeztulites, just boxes and boxes and boxes. And of course, there was no way I was bringing them here. We probably would have ended up with a divorce, right? But nonetheless, I want to, I also on the table have the John of God. I only have 3 of them. I don't have a lot, but they're very, very powerful. There's a healer down in Brazil called John of God. And we purchased a few of his quartz crystals that he shifted the energy in those John of Gods. So other than that, I think I've talked about everything that I wanted to the important things that I wanted to speak about. And I really wanted to open up the floor because I assume that everybody has, or some people have, their own stone stories that have impacted their life. Is that the case? Does anybody have a stone story that they would like to share?
Well, I can tell you something about, all stones have energy to them. The only stones that have less energy are volcanic rocks. And the longer they are a volcanic rock, they start getting back some of the life that rocks have.
Life force of the rocks.
The real old ones are coming back to normal. Of any rock. The bigger they are, the more they will collect, but not in comparison to a regular stone like the mountains around here are made of volcanic rock. Most of them are volcanic, and they don't have the power that the original stones do because they've been melted, and it was burnt out of them what nature put in there eons ago. And if you want to find out how powerful rocks are, if you have a garden, a flower bed or something like that, you can energize it with rocks. You don't have to be big rocks, you can be the size of your hand, and you start off with, collect your rocks first, just at random, and then you take the rocks and you, say you have a tomato plant in your garden here. You got 3 or 4 tomato plants down here, and you just pick out a tomato plant, and you take 2 rocks and you bump these 2 rocks together, and you put one of them down. Then you pick up another rock and you put the other rock down beside the one you just bumped. You pick up another rock, you take it and you bump it to that one that you just put down, and you form a circle all the way around, and you bump the last rock with the 2 rocks now, and you got one, you pick one that's the right size to fill in between these 2 and bump it. That makes a complete energy wheel. And that tomato plant was already planted, or you can plant it in the center. Take care of it just like you do all the others, and it'll outproduce every plant there.
I believe that.
It gets a power from, for lack of being able to say anything else, from God. And
Right.
it will outproduce all of the others. I've done it, and I've showed other people how to do it, and it never fails. That plant will have more tomatoes on it. They will grow bigger with exactly the same fertilizer and the same care. Now
And that's all about stones.
that is about
All
stones.
about the stones.
You can do the same thing if you plant it. Most people don't. You see stones around trees all over the place. Doesn't do a bit of good unless you bump them together as you put them down. They don't have to stay together. You bump them together, and that say, hey buddy, I'm here. And then you do the next one, all the way around. Then it'll last forever, the energy. It'll last until somebody takes the stone away. Now
That's wonderful.
The Indians were great at using stones for that purpose.
Any stone, any
Any-
stone that is,
any-
any
any
stone that is out there
But I'm
are
telling you,
equivalent to these.
the volcanic stones are the ones that aren't very lively.
Paul, as the volcanic rock starts to change and re-energize, does it change appearance? Do you happen to know?
I don't know why they aren't, and I just assume because everything that they had was destroyed when they were
In the fire?
turned into liquid, and then they flew, they formed a stream probably, or they blew out like this, and they hardened in the air and then fell to earth. There's all kinds of ways they got made. They could have been, earthquake could have broke them up eons later. I have no way of knowing, but old volcanic stones have an energy that newer stones don't. And I don't know what newer ever means, except I've been to Hawaii and I've picked up rocks there, and I have a sense about energies in everything I touch. The new volcanic stones are nothing. I feel nothing from but I can pick up an old one and I can feel it, and different old ones feel different than other different old ones. But I have no way of knowing how old they are in relation to one another, except how they feel to me. But
Thank you.
stones are very important in our lives.
And I think they're becoming more important.
I think people
They really
that
are.
build a stone home, and especially if they don't make it square, they make it round, there's a tremendous energy there that isn't there if they make it square. We should none of us ever live in a square building. It should always be like this, a vaulted ceiling. Or a dome ceiling. Why are you supposed to put steeples on churches? Why? You ever think about that? Why do churches have steeples? Why do they, all of the primitives in this world, all of them, they built buildings, homes, houses out of something where the igloo, it was round. The teepee, it was round. The lean-tos, they were round, were slanted. Your spirit needs to get out.
Yes, that reminds me of something. I have a friend that she wasn't able to make it today, but she's very psychic. And in our gazebo, I glued down the 12 precious stones. Well, I think it was the 12 precious stones that I glued down in the gazebo. And she came over to visit one day and started walking towards the gazebo, and she could see a golden light emanating from the center of that, that right of the center of that round. I probably did a 5 foot or 6 foot, I don't remember exactly how big. And then I glued the stones down. And she could see a golden light emanating from the ground up towards the heavens. So, yes, everything, all of these things in the books that I read and that, it's always about circles, more than the other.
Well, God made us round. Look, heads are round, eyes are round, mouth
Right.
are round,
Right.
legs are round. Round is the best.
Right.
I was thinking about what you said about the fairies, and David Wilkinson used to be our pastor here before he retired. He could see the fairies on this property. He said they were around.
My.
Would that be fun to see him?
See, I feel like Harmony, my dog that died in April. She would sit for hours looking out the window, and I would go look and try to see what she was seeing. And I knew that she had to be seeing the elementals that were keeping her that mesmerized. So she was watching something that I couldn't see. Well, that's going to change for us, hopefully, that we'll be able to see them.
Yeah, well, one of the things that brought to mind is when some of us women meet at Sophia, it's Wednesday morning breakfast. Every time I go by that tree by the door to the kitchen, I usually speak up to see, to say something to them. Good morning, how are you? I didn't do it once and I tripped. I've got a beautiful black eye, but I don't see them, but I speak to them as if I know they're there. And there's it's a Palo Verde tree, and it's got these interesting looking nooks and crannies where I figure they're sleeping, or that's part of their house.
That's
Anyway,
wonderful, right?
It's interesting to be up here.
We dowsers can douse trees. All trees have a window or a heart, and all trees have a window or a heart. And in a woods or a forester, they're all on the same side. And if you want a tree to live, or any plant, if you transplant it, plant it exactly facing the way that it originally grew from.
Yeah.
Because trees and
They,
I've been a dowser all my life, and you can energize a tree that gets sick by putting what we call a French coil around it like this. And I've done a lot of them here in Tucson, and you put up to the window that it had, where you find the window, put this coil of copper around the tree up there, and at the window, you bend the copper over and you bend it up like this, on the end like an antenna, and that furnishes energy to that tree. And it will come out of whatever it is. I've had very few trees ever die that I put one of those on.
Well, I believe that the stones, burying the stones at the bases of the trees are going to do the same thing. Definitely, that's what was coming from Archangel Michael, that they are.
If you put a thought form with it.
Right, an intent, right, that you're definitely doing that. And so,
I was just gonna tell you, the window of the tree or bush or whatever is the way it wants to face, whether out
Right.
here it wants to face the cold winter weather and get away from the summer heat, or out, and sometimes they want the window facing the south or the west. It's what the tree wants.
Can
I
the
love
window
it.
change
No.
into wherever, you know,
That's
if it
why
likes?
it's best to find it and mark it.
Mhm.
Mark it with a piece of thread or something. Even a cactus you can mark with thread. And when you transplant it, you get that thread the same way,
Mhm.
either north or south.
Oh, that's
east or
wonderful.
west.
That's
Facing
wonderful
in
information.
whatever direction it was,
Right.
and I just go with the four directions, and if it's not with the four direction, I remember put it halfway between the two. But, and you'll have success with anything you transplant. You'll have success, where if you just willy-nilly stick it down, there's a good chance you won't have any success at all.
So you should find out where the window is, like I wanna put a new bottle brush tree in my yard.
And of course,
Find out where the window is.
yeah, you douse to find I just douse to find which side goes. But if you don't know, just look at the tree, and if it's got a bush, whatever it is, if it's got, you can tie a ribbon on it before you dig it up. That ribbon's headed towards, is due south, then plant it due south,
Did you say ribbon?
100 miles away.
What word did you say? Ribbon?
Oh, yeah, you mark it, you can mark it.
Just mark it.
Well, that's after you decide where it is.
That way you're sure that it's gonna be the same way no matter where it is.
So if you go to the tree store, they're not gonna have it marked for you, so.
No.
No, because it was dug up more than likely and taken to the nursery, so you can't go to a nursery and have any success in planting it facing the same way it was at the nursery, because the guy at the nursery, it could have been 100 degrees off.
Sure, well, that's where your dowsing comes in, right?
Yes, the tree will form its own heart or window. And it doesn't look any different than the rest of it. You can saw it any direction you want to and look, and you can't see any difference where the heart is. It's exactly the same. My dad ran a sawmill, and I've looked and looked, and I grew up when dowsing was a big thing. In fact, I started dowsing myself when I was 5. And Dad had a sawmill, and of course the old timers knew things like that. And I've known where the window was on the tree when it was standing this way, and then make it into the log, and then it's sawed, and the slabs come off of it. And I've looked and looked, and there's no difference where that window is than the rest of it. So it's invisible. God knows where it's at, but you won't know where it's at unless you douse for it.
Well, dowsing really gives you a lot of answers. I mean, when I was doing all of this work, constantly was using my dowsing rods or my pendulum for answers. So it's a wonderful tool.
Meteorites have a strange feel to them, to me. Now, who knows where the meteorite came from? But they are, you can't drill any meteorite that I have ever seen. You can't drill them with a carbide drill bit. They are so hard you cannot hunt, you can't fracture the surface.
Would a diamond bit go through it?
Nope. Well, I haven't tried a diamond bit. I shouldn't say that. But they can be sawed with a saw. They can be sawed. Diamond saw will cut them. That's the only thing that will cut them. I've seen them in museums, places like that, and they've been sliced with a diamond saw. But how they did it, I don't know. The rocks are very important.
Yes, Thais.
Once upon a time, when I met this certain person, or even before I met her, I'd walk around with stones in a pouch, and then I met this person. And I had all these little stones that I loved, and I would carry them all around. And as time went along, I realized that I wasn't being proactive in setting forth my intention. I was just walking around with these stones in a bag. And so I was talking to this special person one day, and I said, I think I'm moving on from carrying a collection of stones to actually becoming more proactive in my intention. So if I feel that I need a healing, or if I feel that I need a direction to go in, perhaps it's just that one stone that I should work with for a month or two, and then of course I have the responsibility of having a daily focus, daily prayer, or daily intention, and also journaling. How was yesterday different from today? How was last week different from this week? Am I still in my intention, like a prayer? So I'm asking you, what is your opinion of carrying around, let's say, 5 or 6 different types of stones as opposed to carrying around one stone?
Well,
or
I-
2 for a
right.
month, and you talk about your medicine bag and things of that sort. Or the 12 precious stone, the medicine bag, or the calcite stones that respond to our chakras. Is it best to work with all 7, 8, 12 chakras, or work on one chakra at a time and douse and see how we're doing, and then moving up? I'm sort of confused, and I guess I'm at a different stage in my intention now, and I actually want to be able to visualize, internalize results. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I really think that probably one stone, and develop a connection to it. I mean, knowing that it's alive. I mean, it has a being, it's alive. And so when you're working with a whole bunch, I mean, some of the medicine bags are for layouts, okay, when you're doing your work, healing work, or that, even on yourself, okay? I've got to get that medicine bag, the medicine mat, the meditation mat, remade, because so you have instructions in your packet there of how to make the medicine bag, and you did something that's really wonderful.
But it's not the mat.
Huh?
It's not the mat where I can actually sit in it.
No, it doesn't matter, but there's the energy from that, right? And so I think that I remember when I took the training with Naisha, I wasn't sleeping really well, and I'm a club in this other work that I do, and so we're in our head a lot. So she said, How many stones do you have in your bedroom? Well, I mean, everyone that I started to fall in love with went behind my headboard. So now I've got all these stones and all these alive beings that are, God knows what I'm doing with them when I'm, in a sleep state. And they're probably talking to me and we're chattering. And she said, you have to really take those stones out of your bedroom. And that's why this one is an earth element stone, so it's not like the earth element is softer in a sense. And this one does not bother me, that I know of. But there's such a strong connection that with this one. But I did exactly what she asked me to do, and I started sleeping much better. But I have to tell you, so the same thing applies when you're starting to work with a specific stone. It's better to get to know that stone and not have a whole bunch of stones to get to know. I mean, this is for planting, to bring feed the fairies, but some of these stones are for layouts and grids and all of that, all right? So, but I believe one stone at a time when you really get to know that stone and then move on to another. And every stone on the ground, they don't have to be any of these $19 golden herderites, is going to be powerful. And we're living in a place that the stones that are around here, where we live, are the stones where we live. So we're connected to those stones on the ground. So don't, if you haven't started picking up a stone as you're walking somewhere, that's really important to do that. Not just go to a stone store and buy the stones that you already know about. I think that those have a real key importance. But God knows, please don't have a million of them in your bedroom. Now, I thought about one other thing is my jewelry box. And all my jewelry is this. They're stones. They're stone pendants. So, in a sense, I've got all of my stone bracelets and my stone pendants, and the bracelet box is under the bed, and you have to figure they're all they're all visiting with me probably at night. And so little by little, I have started to take away, stones. I mean, I've literally gotten out of bed and said, no, I can't have this here right now. This one, of course, I never move. And I have a weakened heart. And rose quartz is wonderful for weakened hearts. So this is a stone, and it's a water element, so I don't have any water in my chart. That's what we talked about the last time. So water element stones are really important for me. But I have to think about just having a very quiet space in order to go to sleep in. So it's one stone, and I cannot tell you how many I ended up bringing in the room. Oh, I mean, some new stone would come out, and I think, God, I really love this stone, and boom, in the bedroom it came, and so that was a really great piece of information for her. Rose quartz is very, very plentiful on our planet. It's very recognized, but it's also a very, very important stone. It's one of the most important stones that we have. And of course, it's all about love, and energy and relationship. And yes.
Talking about love, every time I go hiking, a heart rock. It's like somebody sets the heart rock
Perfect.
for me to pick up. And every time I have them sitting around my bushes, sitting around, I have them in front of the house, in back of the house. I have all these heart rocks that up here to me, every time I go hiking, no matter what state I'm in, no matter what area I go to, and it's, to me, it's a message of love. It's the
Absolutely.
Mother Earth just saying, I'm here for you.
Right. And the stone is saying that and wants to come home with you.
And
There
it's
is
just-
no question that it brings your attention to look down and see that. When you think about it, you know,
And it just,
like
like it's sitting there.
that's wonderful. Yeah, you don't have to spend a fortune on your stones.
I already have a fortune in that, and I put them all in one room, like you said, away from the bedroom.
Yes,
Because
absolutely
I
right.
get so wound up that it's like,
Yeah, well, they're alive. I mean, and I don't think for some reason people, not everybody realizes how alive they are. And so you can imagine. I mean, there's no telling. Like I said, there must have been a lot of chit-chatting going on among everyone, conversations and everything else like that. So my sleeping has become a whole lot better. Now, he could sleep through anything, so it doesn't matter. He reads a few pages. Maybe it's a man thing. I don't know. But he reads a few pages, and that's it. He's gone. And I'm like,
Sounds like me if I can, if I can.
If I have a layout of stones, and they're in the next open little room, and they're off to the side. That's an open room.
uh-huh.
Can that affect me and my sleeping? Because no, okay.
No, I've literally taken the stones and put them in our master bathroom, just far enough away from me that, I mean, I haven't taken them far, but please, you know, I mean, if you're having any sleep problems at all, think about maybe how many stones you might have. If you love stones, how many you have around you. And,
Or think about how close your cell phone is to your head.
uh-huh.
Are there any stones to counter that?
Yes.
Yeah. I
I'm
believe,
listening.
I-
Where are they, Don?
I think black tourmaline is a wonderful stone for, you know, helping you with that. We'll do that, Thais. You and I will go in the book of stones. You have the book of stones at home, all right? Shungite. Oh, we carry a lot of shungite, right?
Here I've always blamed vitamin B12. If I don't take it first thing in the morning, it'll keep me awake all night long.
No kidding. Is that really that helpful?
For me, I'd like to go to sleep at night.
Oh, I know.
Instead of later. But I don't take any B12 after 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning.
after her blood test came out, and she says, do you take a lot of beef? And I says, not really. And she says, well, don't, because you are already at your high level. And I thought, wow, I'm more of a vegetarian than anything, so there must be a lot of B in my foods.
Yeah.
You know, there was one other thing I wanted to mention is that when I first went into the work with the stones, I could feel the energy of any stone. I mean, it would be profound energy. I mean, and I would pick, and some had more than others. The Nirvana quartz, I thought I brought some, but obviously it didn't get in the box. It's his fault, right? No. But anyway, and I remember when the Nirvanas were first uncovered in the Himalayas, and in 2006, and they were waiting till we got to that place where those, and then they were uncovered. And I remember going to Robert Simmons. He's a big, he's the co-author of that Book of Stones, but he sold Nirvanas when they first came out, and they were not cheap. And I picked 2 up like this and went like, and I mean, there's no way that I wasn't going to buy them. And it was like, oh my God, I could not believe the energy that came from those stones. And so I just last night I got up because I'm thinking about doing this and that. So of course my club mind is chatter, chatter, chatter. So I went out and I unpackaged one of my Nirvana quartz, and the energy was I could still feel it. But see, we have a playroom, a huge room. Is it this size of this room about? And it's filled with stones and crystals. And my youngest daughter one time slept out there and she said, Mom, there is no way that I could sleep in that room. No way. So she could feel the energy. But your body starts to raise its vibration and matches out of the stones. And pretty soon, a stone is not going to have, you're not going to feel the energy anymore because you're kind of on the same level. And that's going to happen. That is absolutely going to happen. So I just have to say, you just know those things, learn about those things, and so then you're easier with that. So if you have a favorite stone and you really had great energy with it, and now that's kind of not there anymore. It's not about the stone. It's about your changing and matching the stone. And so it isn't necessary anymore. But I mean, when that started to come alive in me, and I started going to the Gem and Mineral Show, can you imagine what it's like for us as Tucson people when that Gem and Mineral Show comes? And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of stone beings that are visiting Tucson. And we, so in a sense, we've started to adjust to that, because, you have to think about what that means for us when they come every year, how that's going to affect the energy of all of those stones. And believe me, there must be billions of stones around when they come. And we are very blessed to have them come here. So a lot of the things that we have, this Book of Stones, I get a lot of the information from there, because I think that the authors are wonderful. They're working with stones all the time. They're speaking to the stones. I mean, I would love that if I could speak to a stone. I think I just kind of know. Like you were saying, Thais, sometimes you just know. You don't have to even read something. You just know that there's this connection. And so we're going to have that more and more and more. So maybe soon you'll have a golden void experience. I wish that for you, yes.
About 20 years ago, I was at a gem store in Albany, New York.
The what?
A gem store in,
Right,
in New York, someplace in New York. And the guy came up to me and he said, there's a meeting on these stones at such and such a house on Saturday. Would you like to come? I said, sure. So I went, and I didn't know it at the time, but the house was a nun's house. No matter where I go, I always meet a nun. They're true. And find me. And the fellow who was speaking was a medical doctor from Brazil. He was indigenous when he was young, and they brought him to South Dakota. You know how they take the indigenous kids and they move them someplace else to teach them? Well, he was in South Dakota. He said he was standing on a corner of South Dakota freezing in the snow. He's from Brazil. He said, and this man came up to him and said to him, you're going to be a doctor, and you're going to come back here, and you're going to love coming back here. He said he turned around to this, he's about 10, 11 years old, and the guy disappeared. goes back to Brazil, becomes a doctor. He was in Albany, New York, to get the nuns. He was going back to South Dakota to hang. You know how they do that sacred thing? They hang? You have to do it 3 times.
That's the Sunday.
Asked me if I wanted to go. I said, it's okay. I didn't go. Because the nuns were there, you know, to hold the energy for him. But the one of the things he said that never left me, he said that no matter how small a stone is, it always has all of the energy that you will ever need. He said, don't ever buy the biggest stone, but you can't. He said, the small ones.
Mm-hmm.
He said, they're the ones that have the energy. Don't ever forget it. I never did. And the other thing he said was the tourmaline. The green tourmaline eventually will cure cancer.
Will eventually do what?
Will cure cancer.
Okay.
It will be used, the green one. I brought a pink one with me.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, because they are striated, you know. And he said, he talked about the black one, which I carry. I
Right?
carry black one in the car, have them around my house. The protection, very
Right.
inexpensive.
Mhm.
But he said the green. He said the green is the one. He said, not now, but he said eventually, you will see the green tourmaline, when you do a healing, it can heal.
It will work with cancer.
It can heal cancer. The green tourmaline, they come striated.
Right. Well, green is such a healing color anyway.
Yeah, well, I've got
You know,
a
when
pink,
you-
and that's softer.
Uh-huh.
But he's a very interesting man.
How
Yeah.
wonderful.
I was amazed that they said come to the house, but there I was with the nuns. Always the nuns.
Speaking of green, I appreciate.
Yeah.
green.
Oh, well,
The nuns love
I
it.
could understand that.
What was that?
He said he sleeps in green pajamas.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
I could,
can
I
understand
see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it's a healing color.
It is a healing color.
It's also an abundance color.
Mm-hmm.
Years
Are we
ago-
done?
Well, we could I mean, if we don't have questions or whatever, we could wrap up the
I have just one more
recording.
story.
Yeah.
It's a short one. When I was a kid, about 7 years old, my father decided he was going to take us and move to California, where it was warmer, and it was during the war, and I'd be able to get a job and where else. So I was always attracted to stones, and I had a brown little candy paper bag, and I had an aunt who boyfriends gave her everything. And I would carry her jewels with me in my little brown paper bag, and I would play with them all the time in the car driving home. We were in Texas, and I was playing with them, and I left the bag on a stone. And if you know Texas, every stone is the same. I screamed so. My father was heartbroken. I lost my stones. So my father turned around. We went back. Of course, we couldn't find it. A little brown candy bag in a desert in Texas. So I told the story, and somebody said to me, well, that's why you're here. I said, what are you talking about? She said, when you leave something like that that you really love, you're going to go back and you're going to find it. She says, that's why you're in Tucson. And I am flying again to Dallas for Thanksgiving. I mean, go back and forth. And that's what she told me. When you forget it, the stones, they will draw you back. So that's why I guess I'm here. But that's what she told to me. Yeah. I never did find the bag of stones.
Or keep going back.
Well, I want to thank all of you for coming, and I will eventually do a stone and crystal another training. After I'm just getting over pneumonia, so I don't have the energy that I had before. Although I swear I worked 10 to 12 hours yesterday, and I thought, oh, my energy is coming back. To work that long, means that I'm definitely on the road to recovery. And so, but I want to thank you, and I will let you know, when I'm doing another class. And can I do a little commercial? Oh, all right. Don and I are hosts for Lee Carroll, who's the Channel of Cryon. So we bring him to Tucson every other year. And he's coming in February 25th and 26th. It's a 2-day event. It's the first 2-day event. You don't have to go 2 days. It's on the internet, so it's a luncheon event, and so it's going to be at the DoubleTree at the airport. I haven't done the flyer yet because the contract hasn't been signed, and I'm not going to put the flyer with the DoubleTree down and distribute it and get all of you confused, because it already said 4 Points, which is right across the street. So it's going to be a 2-day event, and then following the Cryon will be 10 to 5:30, and then there'll be a dinner, lunch. We're doing a luncheon with that, so the price includes a buffet lunch each day. But then following the Cryon event, Amber Wolf will be doing a Lemurian Sisterhood meeting from 7:30 to 9 on Saturday night, and then Sunday night, Michelle Corinne is going to do a despacho ceremony. So there's things happening. It's going to be a long, long day, but a very powerful event. And I just can share this with you. It's going to be the last time that Cryon's coming to Tucson. He's traveling the world. He's in his 70s, and he says he really needs to go to one big city, so he's going to choose Phoenix. I don't blame him. There's a bigger,
Well,
more
hey,
people
help
to
me
choose.
thank our presenter.
Thank you.